Hi everybody, welcome to the Cozy Cardigans podcast. My name is Mel and I'm the owner and dyer for Big Little Yarn Co. I'm trying out a new filming spot today. I don't have a lot of options right now just because the house is still under renovation. So I'm in like my craft room, but it's a bit of a mess. So I kind of carved out a corner for purposes of filming. So hopefully this is okay. The previous spot that I was using, which was the guest room, the sunlight just kind of kept coming in and out and I hated that. So hopefully the light here just stays as is and hopefully that's a little less distracting. There's a bunch of new people here and so hi. I thought I'd do a little bit of a longer introduction this time just because, yeah, there's a bunch of new people and I haven't really talked about myself in a while. So, yeah, you could just skip ahead if you're not interested and you just want to get to the knitting part. But, yeah, so my name's Mel. I grew up in Southern California, but I live here in Hyogo, Japan with my husband, my son, my 4-year-old son, Everest, my 7-month-old daughter, Yuli. Yeah, my husband and I, we moved here about 5 years ago now, which is kind of crazy, from LA. So hence my American English, but I also can speak Japanese. So what else is there? I grew up in Southern California. I started knitting in 2012, which was the summer right before I entered college, and I went to college at UCI, University of California, Irvine, and I have a degree in biology, but I obviously don't really use it because I'm a yarn dyer, full-time yarn dyer for Big Little Yarn Co. I started Big Little Yarn Co. when COVID happened, right when COVID started, and it kind of took off from there. So thank you so much for those of you who have been here for that long. It's been a long, 5 years, 6 years, which is kind of crazy because, yeah, I never thought I would be able to do this for a living. We also just moved into our new house. This house is hopefully our forever house. I don't want to move ever again. I hate moving. So yeah, I plan to stay here for the long run. We love it here in Japan. The food is good. The people are nice. Love taking the train everywhere. Yeah, and it's a great place to raise a family. What else is there about me? My favorite knitting techniques. My favorite thing to do is cables. I love cables. I do not love casting on. I do not love counting the stitches after a cast on. That's my least favorite thing, but I do love a good tubular bind off. And I also really love horror movies. Hopefully this summer I'm able to do another spooky summer collection. I've been doing that every year since I've started, except for last year because I was heavily pregnant with Yuli and she was born in the summer. So this year, hopefully I bring it back and we can all have fun with horror-inspired colorways again. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to put them in the comments down below. But just basically, that is me. So first off, let me change the battery because it is about to die. So sorry if the angle is different. I had to move you around so that I could change the battery, but we're back. Okay, intros, and then also, don't know if you can see, but I did get myself a mic. Finally got myself a mic. Hopefully it's working. Editing Mel will see, and I apologize in advance if it is not working. But it's quiet right now. There's no construction going on, so hopefully either way you can hear me all right. So before I move on to like the usual podcast stuff, I did want to talk a little bit about the Color of the Month Club. So some shop stuff, if you're not interested, totally fine to skip. But I am running the Color of the Month Club again, which is a yarn club where you can pre-order a old, I want to say old, makes it sound kind of weird, but like a older Big Little Yarn Co. colorway. So in February, the colorway was Azalea, and then I just created a new tonal for it called Hydrangea, which has been really popular, so thank you so much if you have purchased. So for the month of March, I'm bringing back an old Ghibli colorway. This is the first encounter. It is inspired by My Neighbor Totoro, Tonari no Totoro, and it's inspired by the scene. I'll try to put like a gif or something here of when May, the younger sister, finds or encounters the little Totoros, the white one and I think the gray one, and she runs around in the yard with them. So this is the first encounter, and then the coordinating tonal is May, which is the pink, kind of inspired by May's pink dress in that scene. So there will be limited base list available for pre-order for these two colorways. I'll put like all the info in the description box so you could take a look and see what's available. So you can order it as a sock set. You can order as many of these two colors as you want individually in whatever base. The turnaround time is 1 to 2 weeks, a little bit shorter since there's only these two colorways. And yeah, so if you're interested, I highly recommend, because I haven't had this colorway, these two colorways available in such a long time. I do want to say for May, this is May, I did reformulate the pink color for this just because I wanted it to be a bit more true to her dress in the movie. The previous May was a bit more hot pink. This is a bit more rose pink, I would say. And I really like how it turned out. I think it suits this green really well, and it plays off of these, I don't know if you could see, but there are bits of pink in here as well as pink speckles. And yeah, so I have these available, plus I didn't have any fiber available in February, but I will have it available in just one base, the Rambouillet wool base. I created the first encounter. So this has never been available ever before, because at the time when I released the first encounter, I didn't dye fiber. So this is actually the very first time this colorway is available in fiber form. And honestly, I don't know when this will be back because it's such an old colorway. So this is the first encounter in fiber form, which I love how it looks. Let me just open it up for you. And then this is May, the tonal in fiber form, and it is such a perfect rose pink. And I think these two work together so well. And usually, let me see if I can, as I roll this up, let me talk to you. I usually try to take a little bit of the Color of the Month Club yarn for myself to make like a sample or like socks or something. But I think, to be honest, I might take these two to spin with, because when I combine them, they look so pretty, look so cute together. I will try to include more clear photos so that just in case me holding it up is not really color correct or something like that, hopefully I could put up some pictures of this here so that you can take a look. But yeah, fiber on Rambouillet will be available. And like, this is probably the only time I'll have it available, to be honest. So yeah, that is the Color of the Month Club. It is available all month long till the end of March. So yeah, hop on it if you like that colorway. And I think that's about it for shop stuff. I am done with pre-order dyeing for the previous pre-order collection, my Japanese snack collection. So for those of you who are waiting for the orders, thank you so much for your patience. I'm almost done, kind of. So right now I finished the pre-order dyeing, and now I'm packing up the orders and trying to find if there's any oopsie skeins or like missing skeins that I just kind of like miscounted on. I will dye that up next. So hopefully you'll start getting your shipping notifications soon, because I am packing up as fast as I can. So thank you so much for your patience with that. And I think that is it for Big Little Yarn Co. shop stuff. So let's get started with my FO. It's this. This is the Janette cardigan that I've been knitting. This was originally supposed to be a sample for my Japanese snack collection, but I ended up finishing it after the collection closed, which is like, you know, it happens. I have 2 kids, but yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Let me get up. These are the buttons that I chose for it. These are like vintage buttons I got from a flea market in Kyoto. Let me just go ahead and just talk about this cardigan in its entirety, all the info. So yarn is Oshiruko, part of the Japanese snack collection. As I said, it's superwash merino DK combined or held together with my Suri silk lace, and it is so cozy and perfect. I think that this might be my favorite kind of weight on me, like not full-blown winter knits. Like I think this might still be a little too thin. Like it's very light actually compared to like a more rustic yarn. Quite light. It's not too heavy, but obviously it is heavier than holding a fingering weight with a Suri silk lace. But I think I really like the speed of the knitting as well, because obviously since you're holding a DK and a Suri silk lace together, it kind of knits up a bit quicker than if you just held the DK by itself. I used, I believe, a size US 6 for the main body, and it went quite quickly, surprisingly. I think as like I tend to knit with fingering weight or DK weight max. That's usually what I veer towards in my projects. I don't normally knit worsted to Aran weight. Just in general, I don't really gravitate towards that kind of needle size, I guess. I like to use smaller needles. So this is actually kind of one of the heavier projects that I've made in quite a long time, and I really enjoyed it actually. The Janette cardigan is by Moreca Knit. It's my first pattern by her. I liked her pattern writing style. It was very clear. It was easy to understand. There was like a side margin for like tips and links to tutorials and things like that. I will say that some of the techniques that she recommends for like decreases, increases, that kind of thing, I substituted it for something that I prefer more, that I feel like worked better, at least for me. So I could talk about it when I get to there, but other than that, I think her pattern was really well written and really easy to understand. So I highly recommend a Moreca Knit pattern if you haven't knit any of her stuff. She has a lot of classic silhouette patterns, so I do recommend her patterns if you have any in your favorites or in your queue. So let's see, let me talk about what I did. So this is a top-down sweater. I knit pretty much 2 patterns for the top half, and then when I got to the body, I did shorten the body because I'm only about 5 feet tall, so I'm quite short. My torso is quite short, so patterns tend to be a bit too long for me. So I didn't want the end of this cardigan to go under my butt. I wanted it to be a bit higher up, Like this is my natural waist here, and I wanted it to float along that line, if you know what I mean. I didn't want any tightness to it. My hips tend to be quite wide compared to the rest of my torso. And because I'm breastfeeding, my chest size fluctuates pretty wildly, like throughout the day. So that's not a very reliable source of measurement for me right now. So yeah, I decided to try my best to hit that waistline, and I think I did a really good job, because when it goes lower than my waist and it hits my hips, sometimes things tend to get tighter around there, and I don't want that to happen. And also I tend to wear high-waisted pants anyways, so I wanted to make sure that that suits my style, obviously. All that to say is I shortened the body, and then here I am missing a button because it popped off. My daughter was playing with my jacket and it popped off. So ignore that part. There used to be a button there. But anyways, one thing I really like about this pattern is that there are these decreases that happen here at the end. So it has this kind of opening detail that I really like, that I think is really cute. You could easily not do it if you don't like that kind of thing, which is nice as well, but I really liked it. So that's that for the body. And then I went ahead and knit the sleeves. I picked up 2 pattern, but for the decreases, I've mentioned this in my previous podcast episode, but I'll just go ahead and talk about it again since this is like the whole FO thing. But my arms are quite short. So what I usually tend to do is I like to knit 2 pattern, but either I don't do the last couple decreases and I just start the ribbing, or I finish the decreases and I immediately start the ribbing. Like I don't need to knit straight. So for these sleeves in particular, I was just looking at the pattern and trying to calculate what I should do. And if I did the decreases 2 pattern for my size, I did the size 4, by the way, did I mention that? I did the size 4. So if I were to follow the directions for the size 4, the sleeves would be way too long. I just kind of calculated the rows and checked my gauge, and I realized that if I followed it 2 pattern, it would be way too long. It would not work. So what I did was I calculated how many rows relatively I would need for the arm length that I wanted. And then I went back and kind of adjusted the decreases as needed. I just checked the notes, and I was supposed to do decreases every 8 rounds, 11 times or something like that. But I did decreases every 6 rounds, 11 times instead. So I have the same amount of decreases, just in a shorter length, and that worked out. But the thing is, so this is like kind of like where the decreases happen, but by the time I finished the decreases, it kind of ended up being like right about here. So there's still quite a lot of length left. And not only that, the width of this sleeve here, I just felt like was a bit too wide. Like it was too, even with the ribbing, I just feel like that's a bit too big for my wrists if I were to knit straight. So I thought about it, and the original kind of vibe I wanted, obviously it looks nothing like these, but the original vibe I wanted was like a baba sweater, like that big, cozy, comfy sweater. So I was like, is a baba sweater kind of look like that? So I kind of looked at some of their cardigans, and I realized that what some of the cardigans do, I don't remember which cardigan number it is and stuff like that, but I could try to look for it and put the picture up again. Some of them have not only decreases in the underarm, but there are decreases on the, if this is an underarm, I guess like the top of the arm, I guess. So I don't know if you can kind of tell, but there is a bit of a decrease situation here. So once I finished decreasing at the underarm, I went ahead and started decreasing at the top, and it looks really funny, like when you kind of put the cardigan flat and look at it. But I think when you stand up and you kind of just move around, it gives it that little bit of decrease that I needed before I was to start the ribbing, which I really like, because I like this circumference of sleeve before I start the ribbing. I think this is kind of like the biggest that I would want it to be. Any bigger and I feel like it starts getting like bell sleeve. Is that a thing? Like a bell bottom but a bell sleeve. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it to be a bit more, to have like a cleaner silhouette. So that worked out. I ended up doing the decreases here before starting the ribbing. For all the ribbing on the body and on the sleeves, I just kept going with the US 6. I didn't want the ribbing to be too tight. I feel like I'm a pretty tight ribbing knitter. I realized that last year, or was it 2 years ago? I knitted some kind of colorwork sweater. I think it's the Recursion, and the ribbing on the neck was so tight. I can't really get my head through it. Kind of tight. I have to fix it still. But I'm a pretty tight ribbing knitter, so I decided to just stick with the US 6, and I think that worked out well. If I used a US 4 like they called for, I think it would be a little too tight for me. I think this is like a perfect sleeve tightness for me. So yeah, really happy with how that worked out. And then after I did that, I did the collar. For the collar, I did use a US 4 just because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too wide and it wasn't like gonna fall off my shoulders kind of thing. I did want to wear it kind of like this, buttoned down like a sweater. So I didn't want it to be too wide. So I did a US 4 for the neckline. And yeah, this one I knit to pattern. I didn't really change anything about it. This was last. After the sleeves, I did the front button bands, actually. My bad. This one, the only thing I changed, like I said, was the technique used to kind of attach the ribbing. So attach the button band. So for those of you who have never knit like a button band, a double knit button band for a cardigan, what you do is you kind of cast on, and then you have all these stitches picked up, and then you cast on here, and then you kind of knit and then knit together, knit into your picked up stitch so that it kind of, comes together. Sorry, I'm not good at explaining that. But so for Moreca Knits instructions, she recommended, I forget what it was. I think it was like a slip one and then knit one and then pass the slip stitch over type of thing, which kind of made it look a little not clean. I don't know which side it was. I think it's this side, but it's like these first few stitches here I did as written. And I don't know if you could tell, but it's like kind of crooked. I did not like that. The tension, I don't know what it is, but like when you pass the slip stitch over, at least for me, the tension kind of goes wonky. So I went ahead and I started doing a knit two together instead, or is it slip knit? One of those, whichever one made sense, I guess, so that I didn't have that weird tension thing going on. I don't know if it's because it's like just the beginning of the button band or what, and it was also very tight. Like when I pull at this, at the pass slip stitch over, there is barely any give. And I was really worried that if I were to do that all across the front, that the tension would look kind of wonky. When you do like a knit two together or slip knit, whichever one of those it was, I feel like there's a little bit more elasticity to it and there's a little bit more give. It gives you a bit more wiggle room when it comes to the finished product, I guess. I used the US4 for this as well. You want a good, not too tight, but like not too loose gauge for the double knitting fronts. So I used a US4 and US4 for this. The buttons I chose are a bit smaller than called for, but they were just too perfect. It's like the same kind of color as the yarn, so I couldn't not. So what I did was I went back and I closed the buttonholes like a tiny little bit on the top and the bottom. I just like did a quick little stitch, hidden stitch in the back, and yeah, it worked. And hidden stitch as in like with the needle, you know, not a sewing needle, but like a darning needle, using the same yarn, and I think it worked out pretty well. I'm the only one who knows that the buttonholes are like closed up a little bit. You can't tell from the front that I did that, so it worked out. I really like these buttons, and I'm glad that they're getting some use because I've had them for such a long time, and I'm glad that I was able to find a project that suited them perfectly. But yeah, this is my Janette cardigan. Super happy with it. I do also want to mention that this is, I thought in the beginning when I first purchased it, I guess I didn't really read through I don't know if she writes it in the description or not, but in the pictures it looks kind of like a drop shoulder, and when I put my arms on, it kind of looks like a drop shoulder construction, but it's actually a set-in sleeve. So there is a bit of shaping here, and then you do short rows on the top, and I kind of like that. I think it helps lessen the bulk here because you are not just, you know, knitting a square. There's a bit more shaping to it, which I really enjoyed. So that was a nice surprise. I was kind of skeptical at first because I thought I was going into it thinking it was going to be a drop shoulder construction, and I wanted like that drop shoulder kind of look, but I'm glad I stuck with it because it looks like a drop shoulder when I put my arms down, because you can't really see the shaping here if I, you know, just put my arms down like this, but it still has a nice fit to it. So yeah, there's that. So that's my FO. Hopefully I answered all your questions, and let me know if you need any more info from me. Next up is my whips. I have 3 ongoing whips, and I have like one plan that I'm gonna talk to you about. I don't have like the yarn next to me for it, but hopefully maybe I could like put pictures up. But let me go ahead and start with the whips. My main whip is my Olga sweater. It's in this hand sewn project bag that I made. This is my main project. This is a buddy knit with my brother-in-law, Kevin, who has a podcast video podcast here on YouTube as well. So we're buddy knitting this because he's coming to Japan with his partner and my other brother-in-law. They're all coming in April to celebrate my son Everest's birthday, and we want to match. So this is how it's going. Ooh. Let me see if I can hold it up a little bit. So this is how it looks. I'm almost done with the body. I think I want to knit about maybe 5 more centimeters. So what is that, 2 inches more? Very close. This is knit using, let me see if I have this Munsell Merino Rainbow 100. It is just like a basic yarn, generic yarn brand, I guess. There's a craft store called Wiswell in Kobe. I think they have other locations as well, but they're just like a big, think Joann's, but Japanese. Like they got fabric, they got, you know, resin stuff if you want. They got sewing, they got knitting, they got everything. It's a big, huge craft store, and they have their own brand yarn, and this is 100% merino. I'm holding this label like you can see the yarn. They have 100% merino yarn, so I'm using this chocolate brown with this raspberry burgundy wine red, and I love how they look together. The Merino is actually really quite nice to work with. We'll see how the pilling is. It's quite soft. So yeah, if you're looking for a place to go in Japan and you want some like crafty souvenirs, I highly recommend going there. They also sell like Noro and things like that if you are interested. But yeah, I'm knitting the Olga by Petite Knit. This is the size, I'm knitting a size 4, and it is quite oversized, as you can see. I don't know, apologies for bonking. I don't know if you can hear my voice through this mic because I'm holding it up, but it's kind of hard to show you on me. But trust me when I say that it is quite oversized. I do have like a reel of me trying it on, so maybe I could just pop that up in here so that you could take a look. But yeah, it's going quite well, and no notes quite yet. I'm knitting to pattern. Kev showed me a mod that is actually quite popular, I think, for the Olga, for the neckline. It's a double knitting neckline, and I'm going to try that out. I've yet to do that, but I will do that after I finish the body. I feel like that neckline can go quite well for a lot of other knits as well. I feel like it's pretty versatile. That's going. This is my main one. I have a little ghost stitch marker from, where are they? Tiny Human Planet. They like a hand whittled ghosty to hang out with me. And yeah, so I'm working on that so that we can make sure we have some matching knit picks for April. So that's the Olga. And then my next one is kind of like, I want to say it's an accidental cast on, but is it really? So this is using my February color of the month colors. This is Azalea, and this is Hydrangea, the new tonal that I was talking about. And these are really cute, but these are not really my colors. I don't usually wear pink and purple like this, but I knew my daughter would look really cute in it, so I started the Otto Sweater Baby by Petite Knit, so another Petite Knit pattern. So right now, it's so small, but I finished the top back part. Let me zoom this in. So it's got these like jagged stripe pattern, which I think it's so cute, and it's very subtle here, but hopefully you can see it. So the main color is Azalea. The stripes are in Hydrangea, and this is what it looks like on the other side if you are interested. So not really color work, but like kind of a little bit. You do have to be okay with knitting the color work on the right side and purling on the wrong side, which was kind of tough. It was my first time knitting stranded color work, like holding it purl-wise. I'm still kind of figuring out a good way to do it. I'm pretty slow at it, but it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I do really like how potato chippy it is. It's like a very one more stripe kind of thing. I am knitting the fronts right now, so it's looking a little funny. So this is the left front. This is the back. And I just picked up stitches for the right front, so which is why it's looking so uneven right now. So I'm knitting the right front, and just a little mod is for the shoulder. She calls for purl rows to be at the shoulders to mark the shoulders, but I don't really like that. I don't really want pearls on the shoulders, so I just knit like a regular stockinette stitch shoulder, so it's like looks seamless. And yeah, that's the only thing. But other than that, I'm knitting it to pattern. I'm pretty spot on for gauge usually for Petite Knit patterns. I didn't do a gauge swatch or anything because this thing is like so small. It's like a gauge swatch in itself. I'm pretty spot on with gauge usually for Petite Knit patterns, and she in the pattern calls for a size US 2.5 needle for the main fabric. I do not have half sizes, so I want, and my daughter is smaller than average, so what I did was I'm knitting the size 6 to 9 months. She's 7 months right now, but she's on the smaller side of the spectrum. So I'm knitting the 6 to 9 months, but I'm knitting it on a US 2 so that it's hopefully a little bit on the smaller side of that size, because when I measure, when I like look at the measurements, it would be pretty big on her, which I don't mind. I don't mind, like, she looks really cute in oversized things. She does have like hand-me-downs from my son, her big brother, that are pretty oversized on her that look kind of cute anyways. So it's okay that it's oversized. It's just, it would be a bit too oversized if it's perfectly at that measurement. And I would like for her to wear it a little bit before it gets too hot. So hopefully it ends up being a little smaller than the original measurements call for. So this is my other one. I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun. The stitch pattern or the colorwork pattern is like so simple, but it's so fun to do. I really want to make a matching, like a mommy and me kind of thing. Like I want to make myself a, I don't know if there is an adult one, but I know for sure that there's a Otto Sweater Junior for toddlers and for like kids. So I think it'd be really cute if I made one for Everest, my son, and then it'll match. That'd be really cute. I don't know if that's too cheesy, but you gotta match while they can't complain, right? So yeah, this is my other knit and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And then my third project is for my son. He requested socks because his other socks that I knit for him are a little bit too small now. His feet have grown. So he requested socks, and so I took him into my yarn stash and told him to choose one, and he chose these. Let me show you the ball of yarn actually. This is quite an old stash yarn. This is from, I believe, my first spooky summer collection, which is crazy. So it's older than he is. He is almost 4. He's turning 4 in April. And so this is from back in 2020, I'd say. This is the Shining from my very first spooky summer collection. And it's like a red orange with bits of like light darker pinks, maroons, and bits of blues. It's inspired by the carpet at the hotel that they stay in. And so I'm knitting some toddler socks. There you go. Just 2 at a time. I really don't want to knit 2 tiny socks, you know, like 2 separate times. I just want to do it and get it done. Not that they're not fun. They knit up really quickly, but yeah, it's a bit fiddly because it's so small. You're just kind of like turning it back and forth over and over so quickly. But yeah, it's just going well. It's just a standard stockinette sock. I'm just knitting it like how I knit my socks. So nothing too much happening over here. This is kind of like my going out project now. So I don't have much done, but hopefully it gets done quickly. He does wear socks all the time, obviously, because he wears shoes to go play outside and stuff like that. So he'll be able to wear it no matter what the weather. And yeah. That's my third one. So yeah, those are my 3 whips. Nothing too crazy. For those of you who have been following me, I did start on the mystery MusiKAL. I didn't start it during the mystery knit along time. I started it like maybe like a month ago, like because I really like it and it looks really fun. And I started it using non-superwash yarn because I really wanted to try out knitting a fun Stephen West shawl pattern with non-superwash, which I still want to do. I am keeping an eye out, but the thing is, I don't think this pattern with the yarn I have was the right move. So I decided, I know I was talking to you guys about it a few episodes back, but I decided to frog it. I have not yet frogged it because I just don't have the time, but I do really like that whole color palette. I'm gonna hold off and like wait for a pattern for it, but I do have some yarn that will work for it. Let me just show it to you really quick. So I have from my stash these three. This is Union Fibre. This is from her Elements Yarn Club back in, I don't know, like maybe 2021. And it came with these three. It was like a monthly yarn club. But yeah, these three look so good together, obviously, because it's from the same yarn club. For the fourth color, I'm kind of in between these two. But this is in a really janky looking skein. But this is, I think it's, I don't remember what the colorway is, but it's Coast to Coast. So it's either this or this. This is Yummy. This is my own from my Spooky Summer collection from a while ago. So those are the two options. Let me know which one is best, but I'm planning on recasting on the Mystery MusiKAL with either this or with this. Let me know what you think, which one looks good. But so I have that planned in the future. I don't know when, but maybe a summer knit, because I really, after a certain point, it gets so hot here, so hot, so humid. I cannot knit sweaters and cardigans, like I just cannot. So I tend to knit shawls around that time during the summer, because after a little bit of summer knitting, I'm kind of over summer knitting. I want to use wool, but not too heavy. So maybe during the summertime when I'm kind of tired of spring summer knitting, we'll see. Because I'm excited for summer knitting right now, so I don't really want to cast on a shawl. I already still have like these three going on, you know. So that's like a future plan. But I am curious about Stephen West. He announced a mohair along, glow along, I think that's what it's called. His mohair yarn line is called Glow Mohair, I believe, and he has a glow along coming up, which is a pattern. I think it's a mystery pattern, and he is going to use, I think you use one skein, one fingering weight yarn, and then you have 4 different colors of mohair to like mix it in with, and it's a mystery knit along. And I feel like I really want to knit that, because I have a bunch of mohair or like Suri in stash that just like single skeins that I like don't have anything to use it for other than like kid knits maybe, and I think it would be a really great stash buster. And so I'm kind of looking out for that. I think the first clue comes out in the beginning of March, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wait for that, wait for some people to knit it, and then I'm gonna take a peek and spoil myself and see what the vibe is like, and then if I like it, I'll cast on, and then I'll join the glow along. So that's my plan. We'll see how that works. We'll see how that works, but those are my thoughts. But Stephen West shawl, I really want to knit one. I haven't finished the Stephen West shawl in like forever, so I would love to have that under my belt in 2026. So that is the end of all my knitting. I do want to talk about some books. I know some of you have followed me, but I do have like a separate booktube channel, which I only have one video of, because after that I gave birth. And right now it's kind of crazy. I'm like super busy with work, so I can't really film and edit 2 YouTube videos. So like every week, every other week. So when things settle down, hopefully I'll be able to talk more books on that channel, because I know a lot of you don't really care about books, but a lot of you do, so that's nice. So I'm going to talk about books right now. I'm just going to go over quickly like my highlights since I last spoke to you. Hopefully you find a good recommendation, and as always, please let me know what you've been reading, because I love reading about what you've been reading, because you guys have a lot of stuff where I haven't heard of before, and I end up checking it out. So let me see. I just kind of collected it all and wanted to talk to you about a few things. I have 6 books to just chat to you real quick about. So I'll just go in kind of chronological order. Hopefully you find something that you like. So my first book that I want to talk about is called A Guardian and a Thief. I read this because I'm doing on Storygraph like a literary awards challenge where you read a book that's been awarded and a literary award, certain literary awards. You kind of just go through it. I'm kind of caught up. I'm still waiting for the next awards finalist to come out. But I should say you don't read the winner, you read one of the finalists. So this book was in one of those. I forget which award it was. I'll put it up here. But it is called A Guardian and a Thief by Megha Majumdar. And this is a kind of slightly in the future, like not too far off in the future, when there are climate refugees and the climate is kind of gone downhill. You know, the weather is crazy, it's hot, there's no food because of global warming, etc. In that kind of time, so not too far off in the future, in India, that's where it's based. And you follow a family whose father has left India to go to America for work, and he was able to snag some visas for his family to move to the US for a better life. And in the beginning, you follow the mother, her father, so the grandfather, and her daughter, and they get their new passports, they get their visas, they're super excited to go. And then a thief steals her purse from their home in the middle of the night, and she loses the visas and the passports, and they gotta leave in like a week. And she's stressed, you're stressed, like what is going to happen? Is she going to be able to find these very important documents, like who stole them? And it's very interesting because there is no bad guy here. There's only people just trying to survive this climate, this new society that they've found themselves in. Like the mother in the story, she does some unlikable things. The thief obviously is doing unlikable things. Like everybody here is just trying to survive. And it's kind of like you can't blame them, but also you can. And they've kind of dug themselves into this hole, but also at the same time you're hoping that they dig themselves out of the hole that they themselves have dug themselves into. And so it's a really interesting look of seeing both sides of the coin. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. And yeah, I highly recommend it. The next book I read is Notes on Infinity by Austin Taylor. And this book is really interesting because it kind of has the same vibe as, I forget what the silicone startup was, where they ended up being a scam, and it's like a whole thing. I'll put the name up here. It's not that important, but it's like you follow these 2 up-and-coming, smart, young scientists who claim that they have found the answer to immortality. And so what they do, I think they're at Yale or something like that, or Princeton, some kind of Ivy League, and they decide to drop out and start up a company, and it ends up being like $1 billion company. Like everybody wants in on this, you know. Obviously it's the answer to immortality. Of course their stocks skyrocket, and it's like absolutely crazy. And you kind of follow, and you know something has happened, and you follow their downfall. So it's really interesting to see how easily one can be swept up into this moment. And so it's more of a study on the characters rather than like a sci-fi type of thing. Like it's not really about how they found immortality, but is it, It's more so about their life and how their life completely changed and how their relationship had completely changed during this whole crazy startup thing. Found it really interesting, and the bits of science, like quote unquote science behind it, I found really interesting. As like a bio major, I always really like reading about those kinds of books, even if they're fake, obviously. But yeah, I really enjoy kind of like what makes someone want to go to the ends of the earth to make this happen, and what is the reasoning behind the lies that they have told. So yeah, really interesting, really good character study. I gave it 4.5 stars. The next book I read, this is a silly, fun, like, because I think I read some other like very hard, not hard, but like very emotional literary fiction book right before this, but this was like a fun kind of, I don't know, little break, I guess. And this is, I read Thrown in the Dark by A.K. Caggiano, and it's a romantasy, and it's just like a fun time. I think one of my favorite tropes when it comes to romance is the like opposites attract kind of thing. Like, so you follow a evil villain. It's a fantasy world. You follow this evil villain. He's like, you know, tough and also has no feelings, and all he wants to do is to take over the world. And then there's a girl, obviously, who changes his mind. It's like very tongue-in-cheek. The book knows that it's a silly little book. The author knows that they are writing a fun, silly story about these two people. So it's not like a serious fantasy. It's a very fun time. And so it's not like a work of literary art, but it is a fun time. And so I enjoyed it. I'm still reading the third book. Actually, I just kind of read it back to back just because I want to know what happens. The first, I would say, if you're looking for a very fast romance, was not the book for you. This book is full of yearning. They do not touch each other for like the majority of the book. They don't know how the other person feels. They're just yearning for like the majority of the book. Maybe for all of the book. I don't even remember when they get together, but if you are into that, I highly recommend. And it's also just like funny. There are some moments where I chuckled to myself. And yeah, it's just a fun time. I gave it 3.5. It's not like the most amazing thing, but it's also really fun to read. And so I do recommend it if you are into fun, silly, romantasy type of things. So the next book I read is A Closed and Common Orbit. I gave this one 5 stars. This is the sequel to A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Sorry, this is by Becky Chambers, by the way, which I loved. But I love A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I think that one is probably one of my favorite space opera kind of found family books out there. Like if you like Guardians of the Galaxy and also maybe Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like these people just band together and try to work on something. That's the vibe. This, A Closed and Common Orbit, is a sequel, but it is also a bit separate from the first book. You follow a different character after what has happened in the first book. So it's not really a standalone, but it's not really like a true sequel, if you know what I mean. But anyways, I really enjoyed it. Like, as always, Becky Chambers, she knows how to write characters really well, and she knows how to really write about something that, I don't want to say like a basic human emotion, but like these emotions that you feel, that everyone feels, and make it into this story that kind of expands throughout the universe. I don't know, it's really hard to describe, and I also really love like the whole world that she has built in these books as well. So I gave that one 5 stars. Okay, last two. Another really fun fantasy read, I'm into fantasy I guess this past month, is Someone You Can Build a Nest In. And this is actually a fantasy, but it's also in the horror genre and also in the romance genre. It's not so much a romance where the romance is the main plot line. It's a very important part of the plot line, but it's not really. So you follow a shape-shifting monster. They're a glob in the beginning of the book. Like, they don't have a shape. They're very amorphous. And they are woken up out of hibernation by these monster hunters, and she just eats them. And then she ends up being chased out and hurt by the other monster hunters, and she ends up flying off this cliff, and they get hurt. I mean, I don't even know if it's a she, but they get hurt, and a human comes and picks them up and thinks that she's a human, and they end up falling in love, and she has to tell them that she's actually a monster. But then the human mentions that she's in hunting for this shape-shifting monster. Have you seen her? Because she's put a curse on my family. And then the monster's like, oh, well, I guess I can't tell her my secret anymore. And so then they're kind of stuck. And so you follow that plot and see what happens and how it goes. But I really enjoyed this one as well. This was a really fun time. It went really quickly. It's not a short book, but for some reason it went really quickly. I listened to it on audio. It was really good. And yeah, this is another fun fantasy read. So if you're into that, I highly recommend. And I gave this 4.75 stars. And then the very last one, again, another fantasy. I guess, yeah, I'm on a fantasy kick. This is a reread. It's Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. Haven't read Brandon Sanderson's main books, like his series, but this is one of my favorites out of the standalones that I've read from him. It's just a light-hearted, fun time. If you don't know, this was part of his Secret Projects collection, where he independently published a bunch of these books. But you follow Tress. She lives in this island, and the sea is made out of these spores that fall from the sky, from these moons. And it's like a really totally different world, but like also really relatable. And you follow her through like a pirate adventure, essentially, is like the very essence of it. But it's a super fun time, really tongue-in-cheek, a lot of fourth wall breaking from the narrator. And yeah, I enjoyed it the first time around, and I enjoyed it the second time around. So I highly recommend if you're into like a fun, funny Brandon Sanderson fantasy standalone book. But yeah, those are all of my books. Not all of my books, but some of the books that I've read, my highlights. Hopefully you have not heard of some of them and you want to try some out. That's about it. So thank you so much for watching. I don't know how long I've been talking, but I feel like this is kind of a longish episode. Thank you so much for those of you who are new here that decided to stick around. I hope that this regular podcast episode was enjoyable. Please let me know if you have read anything fun lately. Bonus points for fantasy, I guess, because I just noticed that I really have been enjoying that lately. And please let me know what you've been working on, what you've been knitting, crocheting, sewing, whatever you've been working on. I love to hear about it in the comments. And thank you so much for the previous comments in my previous video. I did a 10 favorite Japanese designers video. If you haven't seen, I'll put it in the cards, put in the description for you. But there's so many people who had a bunch of advice, I guess, constructive criticism on my video for some reason. Thank you for those of you who were kind in the comments, and thank you for sticking around. I hope that you stick around some more. You could like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with another video. Bye!